What's up, tunnel fans? I got great news tonight, guys. The map of the Montreal Underground City is now live on all app stores. That's right, Montrealers finally have an app for their underground network. Dit-on ça en français parce que c'est Montréal? La carte du RESO de Montréal, c'est désormais disponible sur tous les app stores. Ouais. Guys, don't forget to rate how bad my French is in the comment section below. So I'm just gonna start talking about all the new features of this release and my thoughts. So we're gonna just jump right into the app here on my phone. Okay, so first things first, we've added English French bilingualism, so localization. So the way it works is that by default, our other maps are in English, and then the Montreal map is in French by default. So whenever you get to the Montreal map, either by GPS setting the map or by manually changing your map to Montreal, it's gonna set the language to French. But they're both there, so I can also like set it to English, and then I get an English language map. So that's just for it to be able to be used by everyone in the possible user base. So this sort of had to have a little bit more thought put into it, because you don't want like a Google Translate thing that's just gonna sort of translate everything. There's some things that you want to keep the way they are originally. Usually in translation, like I don't want to start translating this to World Commerce Center, or did I translate this to convention center. So like things in like for the most part, any place name is sort of kept as it is. This isn't going to be turned into City of Mary Place, right? So the only things that are translated are like things like, okay, stairs to RBC. That's going to be uh different in the French. And then for the street names that are here, like for example, you see like exit to Saint Catherine and Robert Bourassa. So, or no, a better example would be exit to Rue Cathcart. So that is kept as it is. It's not translated, just because that's the name of the street. When you go outside and see it, it's called Rue Cathcart. But an exception is made for like actual addresses. So like for Saint Catherine, I'm gonna like just try to search for that address or search for that street here, and you're gonna see that now that I'm in English setting, my street addresses are all in English. So it does like 150 Saint Catherine Street West. But when I change the setting to French, you see it changes to it will change to like 150 Rue Saint Catherine West. So for that, it does it. So for addresses, it's gonna just translate it fully when it comes to addresses. So that was done just for user convenience sake. So yeah. So apart from localization, as you can probably tell, there's an emphasis placed on like entrances and exits. So all the different possible entrances and exit into the system from the exterior are mapped. I mean, not all of them, but like most of them. So because we observed from user feedback in the previous map that there's something people want, because they might come in from outside. Maybe they came in from like Rue Saint Pierre, and they want to get somewhere, so they can select that as their start location and then select wherever they want to go as their destination. So that is a user convenience feature that we focused on. And then the another convenience thing is that every building, like so, like all these buildings, they also have their full street address the inside of the system, so it's selectable, it's searchable. So like when I pulled up like Saint Catherine Street, like all those addresses you were seeing are for different buildings. I don't exactly remember which building is which address, but they're all here. So, and finally, this just for like we're just trying to make sure that no one has issues with when they're trying to get from point A to point B. I'm gonna show you an example of something now. So like let's say like or there's some location names that have accents in them, right? A perfect example is Le Mille de la Gauchetière. So let's say, for example, I omit that accent, right? So I'm just gonna comment. I'm gonna say, uh, 1,000 de la Gauchetière Street. And like, I'm not even gonna bother to really add all the capitalization where it should be necessarily, because this is how some people use the app. They're just gonna type in something like this, you know. They're just gonna type in something, and okay, autocorrect kind of decided to be annoying there. But the point is that someone will type in something like this, and they're gonna expect to be able to get where they want to go. You'd expect it to give, because like usually it was like literally just checking what you put in against like what was there. So like that has an accent, this doesn't. Especially with the accents, it's kind of an issue if you don't have like this sort of like this concept of lenient location input or lenient input. So someone can like maybe they don't add like every single, they don't make it exactly like it should be, and it still works. Like I'm still starting from Mille de la Gauchetière. As you'll notice, it like corrects it into the way it is like within the system, like whenever you do that. But it still works even if like you like omit some accents or you don't use all of the capitalization. It still works. On our previous versions, that wasn't a thing. Like it was an issue with someone, like if someone didn't type in the exact location. And this is something that's like implemented for all maps, not just the Montreal RESO map. Another thing too on this end is that if like we're in English language setting right now, but if I come in and I use try to use French, even though we're in English language setting, this should still work, right? So it still works anyway, because it shouldn't make a difference. Like even if my setting is in English, I can still put in a French language input, and it still gets it correctly, and still successfully gives me a pathway to go through. And then once again, you see it kind of corrects it to the English, but there's a little bit more. It's doing things more intelligently than it was before. Ultimately, I want it to use more AI, artificial intelligence correction, and I want it to redirect to Apple Maps. If it's a location that we don't have in the system, basically, because again, this map, we're not hiding the fact that this covers just the downtown tunnel system. It doesn't cover, like, it's not like a map of the entire planet. Like, so if someone tries to search up stuff like a map, we just redirect to the map of the entire planet, which would be Apple Maps, or for whatever the Android map is. So that's another thing where we're keeping in mind as well. Just trying to have as good of a user experience as we possibly can, while taking into account feedback and everything into how things are actually built and how things are actually deployed. And there's always going to be room for improvement on that front too. So yeah, so those are those are some of the things that were kept in mind. I'm just trying to think of what else. Yeah, so still on the topic like uh convenience. For this map, all the metro stations are clearly marked, as you might have noticed. So Metro Place d'Armes, Metro Place des Arts. Like I think there's about 6 of them in this system that we have mapped here. So they're all clearly mapped with the transit provider's logo. You know, in this case, STM. It's all clearly mapped. So again, so there is a lot of focus on metro station connectivity, or just because that especially the Montreal RESO particular is very much built around metro stations. So there's a lot of focus on that, a lot of focus on street addresses and street entrances and exits, all just trying to match what the user expectation actually is based on what we've learned from previous maps. So that was really some, those are the things that are really taken into account, and I'm kind of happy with it, the way it came out. I also we managed to get Android and iOS ready at the same time this time, which isn't always the case. So uh yeah, it's good. I'm pretty satisfied with. Also, you might notice this thing that keeps bouncing all the time, like where it says Palaisan have was I mean. That's like the news bar, because if you know from the previous releases or the previous versions, the news bar used to be located like on the like left on top of the bottom sheet here. It was located like here, but we had to add Toronto shops to the Toronto path map. So that had to take that piece of real estate, and then the news bar had to then be moved somewhere. So that it was eventually moved to like just below the masthead here. So like this area, like where the title is. So it's kind of simultaneously exists simultaneously with the subtitle that gives the name of the city. So for now, it's just saying that, which is just trying to kind of prompting people to share this app with their friends. But it's supposed to have like actual news, like as we go into the winter season. So if like something happens, like something is closed, blah blah blah. It really it had its functionality, especially for the Carlton map. That was where it really had that functionality because of all this stuff going on with like student affairs there, and like maintenance in construction that goes on in that campus. So uh well, we're really trying to still have that functionality, like even though things are getting moved around in the layout. I'm trying to think of like what else to talk about. So one thing we also tried to do, kind of minor thing, is just adding some points of interest. Like, there's some bookstores, grocery store, government services there in Complex Gifavro. Like just some look like points of interest that like have some level of prominence or relevance. Uh, Probably just to fill up space, because the this system, similar to Toronto Pad, has like thousands of shops, but you couldn't do just all of them with the time constraints. So we just try to pick a few relevant ones and kind of just put them up there, and hopefully in future you have more of it, like a huge system like we're trying to do for the path right now. So, and part of that was because we didn't go off of like an official city map in terms of like stop points and points of interest, aside from just the main buildings, because that didn't really we didn't really have that sort of resource the same way we did for the Toronto path, because people didn't are familiar with the Toronto path know that there's a really good city produced financial district produced map that we sort of went off of for our color scheme for the map that we did, but that we didn't really have that for the Montreal underground city. So we sort of had to do some guesswork in terms of how to add like points of interest, minor points of interest, in and around the map, essentially. So that's one thing to mention too. Anyway, like we're still like looking for more feedback, and hopefully this, especially with the emphasis on street exits and addresses and metro stations, which I think is what the vast majority of people are interested in. Hopefully, like this definitely serves its purpose, like for the vast majority of use cases. So yeah, so that's the Hallways Montreal Underground City map. Uh, it took a while to get it done, just because of like all the new features that had to be added, and some stuff getting in the way, still having to maintain other stuff that is already exists. But it is finally up, and people can finally use this. So I'm really happy about that, and I'm looking forward to see what comes.